Good. Okay, so we're going to move right into our afternoon lightning rounds. We have some really excellent content queued up for that. I'm just going to forward the slide here, or maybe Chess, if you could do that. So we're going to get right to that. That is our first lightning round. Is something that's actually not super in MBEP's lane, I would say. It's around childcare. And let me just give you a quick story of why I thought this would be really great to have with our State of the Region event. And that's because we have an amazing new board member, Sandy Eason, who's the regional vice president for Wells Fargo. And we were having lunch, getting to know each other, and she said, my thing is really childcare. I think there's really a lot about investing more in childcare that would have huge benefits to our region. And so we talked about that. We really don't engage that cradle to career. We're really more on the college readiness, college career prep, that's kind of our lane for MBEP, if you will. But the more I thought about it after that initial lunch, the more I realized she was absolutely right. It doesn't mean that MBEP's going to go off and do work in this area. It just means that if we think about childcare holistically as a way to increase employee satisfaction and retention, productivity, because they're not worrying about their kids, and how as MBEP with, all these leading employers that are our members, that we could get them maybe engaged in some solution around that. It would be an economic development driver. It would be a productivity driver. It would help our kids immensely and get them on a fast track to a better life. So I hope I didn't steal too much of their thunder, but I'm really excited that we have Katie Castagna, who's the CEO and president of the United Way in Monterey County, and Deneen Gus, who is the superintendent of Monterey County Office of Education. And they're going to do a little tag team, and they're going to talk to us about a great solution that's happening in Monterey County, and just start to tease out this issue a little bit for us here today. So please welcome them to the stage. There you go.
Thank you, Kate.
Green button.
Oh, I'm on. Good.
You are.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So we've spent a lot of time today talking about housing and jobs and healthcare. Yet there's another really key ingredient to a thriving community, and that is quality childcare. Imagine for a moment that you're young and ready to start a family, even if that was actually a long time ago for you. But you and your spouse have worked really hard and made a home for yourselves. You've managed your budget, and you've planned, and it's gone really well. And now along comes your baby. You're thrilled. You go out to look for childcare, and you're struck by the sticker shock of what you find. How can you afford to go back to work? And how can you afford not to? That's my opening slide. Research shows the value of investing in early care and education in terms of kindergarten readiness, high school graduation rates, future earning potential, and decrease in criminal behavior and dependence on social services. You've probably seen this in your own personal lives and the value of investing in your own children and grandchildren, family, and friends. But what is the commitment and opportunity that we have as a community to invest in our children? And how can we help those working families continue that investment? So our imaginary family, you've had your baby, you go out and look for licensed childcare, because you may not have a family member who can help you with childcare, or you may prefer a more educational environment, more like a preschool. So you go out to look for licensed childcare, and you're struck by what you find. There's a huge imbalance of supply and demand. There's some variation across our 3-county area, but in Santa Cruz, only 29% of children with parents in the workforce have access to licensed childcare. In San Benito, that number is 23%. And here in Monterey County, only 19% of children ages birth to 12 have access to licensed childcare. And that could be through childcare centers and licensed childcare homes. Your child is one of 52,000 competing for only 9,600 slots. And let's say you're fortunate and you actually find licensed childcare, but then you struggle with the cost. You may be spending as much for a junior on childcare as if he were going to college. The average price of infant care in our community is $14,000 a year, and it decreases only slightly when you're in the preschool years. Your productivity and ability to work is dependent on you having the confidence that your child is safe, happy, and secure. And your employer benefits when you have the peace of mind knowing that your child is in quality care. A study in Washington, D.C. showed the improvement in workforce participation of mothers with children under the age of 5 after the introduction of a universal preschool program. The barriers to quality childcare and availability in our community are huge, and yet there is opportunity and hope to make some change. It's my great privilege to be able to share with you an exciting new opportunity that has been brought to our community, a creative childcare solution that was begun in Salinas this year under the vision of Dr. Deneen Gus and the Monterey County Office of Education. And she's going to share with you a really great solution.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. And I'd like to thank Katie for her great leadership in this area. United Way has been working very hard to ensure that we're all very well aware of the problem. Now it's my great pleasure to share with you one possible solution. It's my honor today to share with you the story of the County Office of Education and how we are addressing this particular problem in our community. As you see on the slide here, we had a vacant building. In fact, this building was rented by the same tenant for over 20 years prior to it becoming vacant. So it actually gave us a very good opportunity. Our county board tasked me and my staff to find a tenant that would do 3 things. 1, a tenant that would align to the mission and vision of the County Office of Education, a tenant that would pay fair market value, and a tenant that would want to engage in a long-term lease. That was a tough challenge. As you can see on the picture here, it was vacant for over 2 years. And then, all of a sudden, multiple offers started coming our way. But the best offer of all was Laura's Barn. Laura's Barn is a high-quality child care facility that is very well aligned with our mission and our vision, and it could also go a long way in solving the child care challenge. In fact, it's a crisis in our area. So we took Laura's Barn very, very seriously. Their prior facility allowed them to serve only 58 students. Moving to the MCOE location, to our campus on Blanco Circle, would allow them to serve 99 children. That's literally over a 70% growth. Now, this did not come without some work. We, as the County Office of Education, invested $150,000 in capital improvements in order for this facility to meet licensing requirements. Laura's Barn invested $150,000 of an SBA loan that they received in order to expand their staff and in order to purchase additional equipment and materials to make this happen. It was literally a win-win for many entities, for us as an employer, for the business, for the parents, and for the students. Laura's Barn, through our negotiations, agreed to give our employees a $200 a month discount. That's huge. They also agreed to a 10-year lease, so that met that second requirement of a long-term lease agreement. Thirdly, it provided high-quality care to the South Salinas and surrounding areas, and most importantly, to our employees. Oh, wait, let me go back. I wanted to share with you. This just gives you a snapshot of the beautiful facility and what it looks like. As an employer, huge benefits. I want to share with you beautiful Annabelle. Annabelle is a 3-year-old wrangler at Laura's barn. This is Jessica. Jessica is my communications officer. Prior to Laura's barn opening on the MCOE facility, what happened was they had to drive an hour a day to access high-quality childcare. You can imagine how inconvenient that is for a parent and, of course, for an employer who's waiting for your employee to arrive at work. This is what Jessica, let's see here if our clicker will work for me. Uh-oh, it's stuck. Can I try it over here? No. Can I get a little help from the IT department? As they're coming up, no worries. When technology doesn't work, we always have our notes. But it's important for you to understand the great benefit to our employees. Here's what Jessica has to say. Not only do we save time and money not traveling to a preschool nearly an hour away, but the peace of mind I have knowing she's so close makes me a better, more present, and more productive employee. Thank you for the help there. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Benji. Benji's also a 3-year-old wrangler at Laura's barn, and this is his father, Justin Parker. Justin is very lucky because, as you can see in this slide, literally Justin's desk is right beside the playground at Laura's barn. So this is what Justin has to say. It's amazing having my son so close to my work. I don't have to worry about the care he's receiving throughout the day, or worry about trying to get him if an emergency occurs. Having that peace of mind makes me more productive at work. I can actually see him playing outside of my office window. It doesn't get any better than that. There are additional benefits to the employee and the employer. First of all, it improves employee morale, lowers absenteeism and turnover, which of course saves us money of onboarding new staff members. It attracts a wider variety of applicants. And best of all, it saves our employees $2,400 a year. And for young families, that's a huge savings. Additional benefits, it allows employees to spend their lunch breaks or their time that they have off during the day with their children. And for parents who are breastfeeding, it's easy access. It increases the amount of time that children and parents get to spend together. It decreases anxiety for parents, especially for those parents who are hesitant about coming back to work very early. It also allows them to concentrate more on their jobs because their children are so close, they don't have those worries. It also provides employee flexibility and employer flexibility. They come much earlier, they stay much later. Such a huge benefit to us. So now, our challenge to you is what you can do, what your solution might be. Do you possibly have an empty administrative building or an empty space that you could use to provide childcare in your organization? And if not, do you know another business partner that might have an empty space, and might you partner with that colleague? If not, we challenge you to become a family-friendly employer. And if you're wondering about how to become a family-friendly employer, we invite you to go to the Bright Beginnings website where you will find an application. But it's basically creating policies and practices that really support children and their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Deneen and Katie. And I just wanted to make a mention that the PDF that describes what a family-friendly employer is in your Attendify app attached to this particular lightning round. So there's some information there. And as Deneen said, there's more information on the Bright Beginnings website. So thank you both. We have time for just a few questions.
There's one here.
Oh, I don't have a handheld mic. You can talk into my.
I have a loud voice.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you so much for the work you're doing. Dr. Guest, what do you think this will mean for you in attracting and retaining employees, which is a challenge for you and for most in this room?
Yes, it has actually helped us so much. You heard me say earlier, we've been able to attract a wider variety of applicants because this is a huge benefit to them. And I can tell you, so many employees in the past have had to leave our organization because they couldn't find nearby childcare. It has developed an atmosphere where our employees don't ever want to leave. As you heard Justin say, it doesn't get any better than you being able to drop your child off, walk across the parking lot, or walk in the building, in his case, and have that closeness to your children. So it's been a huge benefit to us. It just saves us so much money on advertising, turnover. We just don't have that turnover, so we don't have that constant retraining. So it's been a huge success.
Great. Well, we're going to have to wrap it up there. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your story.
Thank you.
There. Great. Thank you. Yeah, it just gets you thinking, doesn't it? I mean, maybe they're obviously a very large employer, but what if a group of employers got together and did sort of a co-op model and shared the expenses and shared the space? So again, it's just really good food for thought, and we thought it might stimulate some good conversation and good thinking out there in the audience. So thanks for that. We are going to go and move into our next lightning round, which I'm pretty excited about. You know, we always like to have youth involved, as you saw earlier. We have 25 or so youth that are participating today. But we have Melina Long here, too, who's a former intern and Associate Executive Director now of Your Future is Our Business, which is a great partner with MBEP. So I'm really excited for her to share her story and to talk about why internships and mentorship matters. Melina. Just that green button there.
Okay. So before I start, I want to have you all do a little activity. So I want you to stand up. I want you to give me a little shimmy. Shimmy, 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 shimmy. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Let loose. Okay. Come on, everyone. How's that feel? Is that good? Okay. All right. So I also want to know a little bit more about you besides your great moves. So in a couple of seconds, I'm going to read a statement, and if you agree with that statement, I want to ask for you to give me a round of applause, okay? Okay, all right. So when I was in high school, I had no idea what career I wanted. Okay. So from judging what I've heard, it seems like a lot of you struggled to figure out what career you wanted to have when you were in high school. I was also in the same boat not too long ago. And what I decided to do was to explore that further. And so today, I'm going to talk to you about an experience that I had that I think a lot of you might be able to relate to. So when I was looking for jobs, I found a lot of jobs that had a really cool job description and ticked off all the boxes, and I thought they were really exciting. But then when I looked closer at the fine print, I would see something like this. Let's see if it will. 3 to 5 years experience required, and I'm a high school student, and so when I was that age, I was wondering, how do I get experience if I need a job? But in order to get a job, I need experience. Can any of you relate to that? Okay. And if you can't, I don't know where you are, because there's memes about it. It's something that a lot of people struggle with, including myself. And today I'm here to solve the dilemma of how do you get a job without experience, and how do you get experience if you need a job first? So I'm a little nervous because this is my first time speaking in front of so many people. So today I'm going to walk you through this dilemma, and I'm going to present you a solution that I found to it. But before I get into that, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself. So my name is Melina, in case you missed that earlier. And I was born in Santa Cruz, and I was raised by 2 parents who have a pretty different background from a lot of parents that I know of. My parents are Cambodian refugees, and they fled from genocide in the 70s. Let's see. Here's a picture. It's not of them, but it's of some Cambodians. 2 to 3 million people died during this time, but despite the odds, my parents beat that, and they came to the US and they sought refuge in the United States. And in the US, they were able to start a new life. I have my cards out of order. Growing up, my sister and I heard countless stories of what my parents had experienced. Throughout their childhood, they had to flee from torture, starvation, and death. And sorry, I'm nervous. But despite all of that, again, they beat the odds. Okay. When I was growing up, and when my sister was growing up, we actually lived in a garage. This is not a picture of the garage. This is a picture of when my parents were able to move out to Modesto, where they could better afford to provide a better life for my sister and I. So in Modesto, they were able to put clothes on our backs, food in the fridge, and make sure we always had a roof over our heads. And because of their hard work and their sacrifice, we were able to experience a lot of privileges that they didn't get to have. So the experience of filling out FAFSA forms and college apps and going to junior college and deciding, oh, what career do I want to have? And picking a path. For my sister and I, we had a crazy thing that they didn't have. We were able to thrive for once instead of struggling to survive. Let's see what I have here. Oh, let me go back too soon. I was able to experience the typical American teenage years, the hormones, the stress, trying to make friends, all of that good fun stuff. But in addition to that, I also went through a really tough time. I was really, really depressed, and I also had really bad anxiety. So I mentioned earlier that growing up, my parents told me stories about how they had fled from all these different terrible things, and for me, it really made me see the world in a really dark way. How do I go this? And my parents have still never to this day fully healed from that trauma, so that trauma trickled down to my sister and I. And I don't know if you know a lot about Asian culture, but mental health is not a thing that's discussed. My family doesn't show emotion, we don't talk about emotions, and we never talked about how that trauma affected them, and I never talked about how I felt and how I saw the world. And in addition to that, in Modesto, there weren't a lot of resources for us. We couldn't go and see a counselor or a therapist because we couldn't afford it, to be honest. But all of this basically led me to see the world as a really dark and evil place. And frankly, a lot of the time I questioned, why was I alive? But luckily, things started to turn around when I discovered volunteering. And so for I think my freshman year of high school, I started volunteering, and I did random things like paint sets, and I dropped off specimens of random things at the hospital. I helped out at races and marathons, and I helped with car washes. And I got my first foot out of the door and into the world, and I built my confidence through those volunteer opportunities. And another important thing that volunteering gave me was that I was able to finally see myself in a position to make an impact. For a while, I was stuck in dark old Modesto and feeling unempowered. And when I was able to volunteer, I was able to see a time for myself to make a difference. I was able to see an opportunity for myself to make a difference. Okay. Oh, and also, in addition to all those benefits, volunteering also made me realize that despite the fact that I'm a huge introvert and while I like to run off the stage right now, I actually really enjoy helping people. It's one of my passions. Okay. And then in college, I started volunteering even more, but this time I volunteered with UCSC's Zero Waste team to help pick up trash, and did that for fun, which a lot of people consider a punishment, but I enjoyed it. I even ate things out of a trash can, which I'm not supposed to tell anyone, but I really enjoyed it. And at the time, I still had no idea what skills I had to offer or what I wanted to do with my future. I just knew I was going to stay in college and make my parents proud. But then I was offered an opportunity to basically become an intern. And I don't know if you remember your first interview, but mine was really, really, really awkward. And I was incredibly nervous, just like I am now. But despite that, they saw past it and they offered me the internship. And so when I became an intern, they took me fully on board and they taught me a whole bunch of things, such as, let me see, how to plan and coordinate small events, design posters, acquire donations and sponsors, conduct zero-waste outreach, analyze and assess waste, and on and on and on. And they also taught me something that I really can't put into words, which is teamwork, passion. I can't really, there's so much more to it. And in addition to all those things, they laid down a fundamental foundation that I would build on top of later. Immediately after that internship, they offered me a position as a zero-waste team associate. And as an associate, I was able to be in charge of larger projects and my own interns for once. So in less than a year, I went from coordinating small cleanups to coordinating one of the biggest cleanups to ever happen at UCSC, at least to my knowledge. And after that internship, I found an internship on Monterey Bay Economic Partnership's little app called MB Interns, which I was told to plug by Haley Mears. I got an internship with Your Future is Our Business, and I learned how to do a whole bunch of things, but the most important thing I learned was how stressful it is to work for a nonprofit, but how incredibly rewarding it is. I also learned how to coordinate career exploration events for young people, ages 8 to 18, and I also coordinated 2 of their biggest luncheons. So there's 2 there, and today those experiences, the volunteering and the internships led me to where I am now as the Associate Executive Director of Your Future is Our Business. And here's some of my responsibilities. It's a lot, I'm not gonna go over it. Okay. So when I was writing this speech, I was thinking, how the heck did I go from being a unskilled, very awkward, very shy, introverted, and depressed teenager to where I am now, sharing my story with you on this stage today? And I'll give you the answer to that in a little bit. I mentioned this dilemma earlier. And I think the real question that we should be asking all of ourselves is, what experiences can we provide youth, aside from jobs, that can help them build the skills they'll need for the future? That's the question. And my solution for it, in case if you haven't been paying attention, work-based learning experiences. So what is work-based learning? Work-based learning is basically an opportunity for youth to test the waters. It's giving youth the opportunity to explore things that they're interested in, for them to learn new skills, and also to hopefully apply those skills. And here are some examples of some work-based learning opportunities. So informational interviews, college and career expos, career panels, classroom guest speakers, job site visits, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. The most important thing I want you to know is that it starts with one experience, one internship, one conversation, one opportunity for youth to see a possibility in their future. It's one chance for you to inspire youth to do something. When I was 15, I had no skills, no vision for my future, and I didn't want to be alive. But when I was given the opportunity to do work-based learning experiences, I was given the opportunity to see my future and to build my own future. I was also given the opportunity to use my career and my skills as a medium to change the world. Let me see. Okay. A few years ago, I made a list of some things that I wanted to achieve in life. Learn how to swim, pay off my student loans in 5 years, be an important figure of an organization, make a positive impact on youth, and give a TED Talk or speech. And while today I'm probably gonna drown, in my debt, still got about 10 grand left. If you wanna help me pay it off, let me know. But today, I am standing here in front of you as the Associate Executive Director of a nonprofit that helps incredible folks like you help students explore careers. And none of this would have been possible if it wasn't for that first work-based learning opportunity. Thank you.
Melina, we love you. We want you to be our next governor or something. My goodness, you're such a rock star. Thank you so much. We probably have some questions from the audience, and there may be some also coming through Attendify.
Some fun ones.
There's one there.
Hi, I'm Eric. I live in Santa Cruz, and just up the street from UCSE. What a great story that was. And my question is around any ideas that your organization or anybody else has come up with to incentivize this instead of just asking for it.
Okay. So right now, can you actually clarify, what do you mean by asking for it? The students asking for it, or?
No, I mean, like right now you're saying it would be nice if people would provide work-based experience, and I'm sure there are mechanisms in place that I'm unaware of, but can you help me understand how we could get more kids or young people in front of work-based experiences like you're talking about?
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword right now that we found is that we need both the students who are interested and also the adults to provide those opportunities. So if you don't have opportunities and those students can't get those experiences right, and what our organization is doing right now is we're partnered with school districts. And so we actually have a partnership with like PVUSD, Santa Cruz City Schools, and a couple of other districts as well to make sure that these programs are happening at their school so that way it's accessible and they don't need to go anywhere for it. And they can also send us an email or go through their counselor to get these opportunities. Does that answer your question?
And may I add that studies show when companies and employers bring internships into their company, their productivity increases. So that's an incentive right there.
Yay.
Thanks for your question.
And I wanted to just say that Your Fruit Years, our business is currently only scaled to Santa Cruz County. And we're a regional organization, and we're always looking at how to take these great ideas and organizational work and take it across the region. So we'd love to talk with you all too about how that might be able to be scaled, that model, and create the same type of entity in Monterey County and in San Benito County. So let's give Melina a big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can I give you a hug? Okay, excellent. And of course, the Monterey Bay Internships.org is, mbinterns.org is the website that MBEP is part of the consortia that brings that to the region. There's little cards on your table. That's another way that we do this matchmaking between employers and students, and that's a free resource. Good, so, okay, got 2 more lightning rounds, and then we're gonna take a break. This topic, the next 2, we've heard themes and references to throughout the day. There are, as last count, God forbid there's more, but there's 2 raging fires burning that I know about. One is in South San Mateo County near Pescadero. I think that might be contained by now, but that broke out overnight for those of you who don't know. And then of course there's the other fire that's burning now in Santa Rosa, what's it called? Kincaid, yes, the Kincaid fire, which is just tragic what's happening there. I heard this morning that there's vineyards that are burning. Kendall Jackson's home was gone. It's just, yeah, it's another catastrophic fire. I mean, we're just hearing about this as the new norm. So what Barbara's going to talk to us today about is, how we can be more strategic in our forest resiliency planning. And also kind of a link to some really interesting economic development stuff. The way where I first heard about this and why I wanted to bring it to this venue is because this is a topic that will be addressed in 2 weeks at Fresno at the California Economic Summit. And there's some really interesting work going on in the rural parts of the state. And of course, we have a lot of rural areas in our region. So I thought it would be really interesting to bring Barbara here, talk about some of the work that she's involved in through the Rural County Representatives of California, also known as RCRC, and really excited to have Barbara here, so please welcome her to the stage.
Thank you.
Big green button.
Big green button to cue the video, right?
Yes.
Got it. And before I start, I just want to say, where's Melina? Because that was amazing. That was so good. And I fell into my career as a result of an internship, so here you go. all right? And it took me 10 years to pay off my student loan, so power to you for 5. That's a good goal. Anyway, thank you everyone for having me today. As Kate mentioned, no matter where you were this morning, if you turned on your TV or listened to your radio on your way here in the car, the lead story was the fact that the state of California is on fire once again. And by the way, this 3-week period that started last weekend is when 3 of the most catastrophic wildfires in the state's history have occurred in the last 3 years, in this window of time. So why is RCRC, an organization that started as a lobbying and advocacy organization involved in forest resiliency? And the reason is this, is that we represent 37 rural counties in California. Monterey is our newest county, so I'm so happy to be here today. And Supervisor Lopez sits on our board representing Monterey County. But why is RCRC involved? Because of the 18 national forests in California, and national forests are the largest forested ownership in California. Second comes private landowners, and third is state-owned forested lands. Of those 18 national forests in California, 15 of them fall within RCRC counties. The Paradise Fire last year took place in Butte County, which is an RCRC county. So about 4 years ago, one of our board members, who's an elected supervisor, our board is comprised of an elected representative from each of our 37 counties, leaned over to our CEO and executive director, Greg Norton, and said, we've got to do something about this. We're losing beautiful forests, natural resources, tourism is being impacted, watersheds are being impacted, habitats are being destroyed, not the least of which lives and property are being lost. And Greg went to work, did research. As those of you that know Greg Norton, he's a heads down research kind of guy. He's very much a pragmatist, let's get things done. And what we've come up with was this program of work that I was hired a year and a half ago to help stand up. And with that, I want to cue the video, and it could be either I do it or the big green button. There we go. Oh, sound?
That appear each spring, to the majestic sunsets over the Pacific, California truly is the Golden State. Whether it's right here at home or across the globe, we all benefit from this land rich in natural resources. Our oceans, deserts, valleys, and mountains each play a role in the bounty Californians enjoy. The richness of our soil and temperate climate have made us a leading agricultural producer and allow us to feed the world. Our beautiful sceneries and one-of-a-kind vistas provide endless recreational opportunities and fuel tourism. And our magnificent forests not only clean the air we breathe, but serve as a home for our watersheds, protecting and providing clean drinking water to all Californians. California's natural resources set us apart, but these gifts must be stewarded, protected, and preserved. Over the past few decades, changes in climate and the manner in which our forests were managed and fire suppression activities executed have combined to create the situation we are now faced with. Our forests are in crisis and have become an extreme danger, a danger to our water supply and the environment, to the flora and fauna that inhabit them, a danger to life and property, and a danger to their own existence. Something has to be done. California has 33 million acres of forested land, and nearly 11 million people live in these areas. That's 1 in every 4 Californians. Since 2000, 15 of the 20 most catastrophic wildfires took place in California, and 10 of those were in the last 4 years. These fires destroyed lives and property and changed the landscape of our forests. In some cases, forever. A problem this big requires many solutions. Golden State Natural Resources is one solution. Golden State Natural Resources has been established to serve as a steward of the environment, protecting and enhancing the quality of life for all Californians and those who enjoy the benefits of the Golden State's natural resources. Our 3 guiding principles include protecting and enhancing the quality of life in California's rural counties, promoting healthy and resilient forests, and environmental stewardship. and fulfilling our fiduciary duties to rural communities, investors, and the public at large. It's time to look at our forests differently and make every effort to help restore their health and vitality. This natural resource is a gift that will keep on giving if we take care of it. Golden State Natural Resources is here to do just that through the removal and utilization of low to no value forest biomass, currently serving as fire fuel. For unique commercial purposes, Golden State Natural Resources will reduce the risk of catastrophic wildfires in treated areas while catalyzing an innovative wood product industry in the state, which will spur economic growth. And although Golden State Natural Resources is not the only solution, it will be one of the solutions, one that will preserve our forests, provide opportunity and stability for our communities, and protect the residents of California for generations to come.
So we're starting a company, or it's already an existing company, it's already been started, called Golden State Natural Resources. And what we're going to do is go into the forests of California, and we, to that end, and you guys are kind of on the cutting edge of this because we haven't formally announced this in a big way, but we are the recipient of the very first in the nation 20-year Master Stewardship Agreement with the U.S. Forest Service for the entirety of Region 5, which is all of the national forests in California. We're going to go into the forest and we're going to remove what you saw there in the video on the forest floor, that's the fire fuel. We're not going to take merchantable timber, that's for somebody else to worry about. We're going to go in and get that fire fuel off the forest floor, and we're going to transport it to revitalized mill sites in California. We're not going to create new mill sites. We're going to use ones that exist in California. We're going to revitalize them because these mill sites are in our rural counties. And my title is the Chief Economic Development Officer, so a big piece of this project is economic development related. We're going to revitalize these mills, bring that material in, create a pelletized fuel product that you saw there in the video for industrial use. We're going to export that pelletized fuel product to initially Japan and South Korea. Both of those countries are party to the Paris Agreement and the Kyoto Accord. And by coming off of their primary source of energy generation, which is currently coal, and moving to a pelletized fuel product, it's a cleaner source. And it allows them to check boxes toward the goals that they need to hit to keep in the Paris Accord and the Kyoto Agreement. So this job, this company is really focused around 3 guiding principles, and they're in your app today. I sent them ahead of time. But truly, it's about protecting and enhancing the forests, the communities, and the residents of California. I say that you guys are in on the ground floor. We haven't done a big announcement because that 20-year Master Stewardship Agreement was just recorded last week. So we're going to have a big announcement likely in January about it. It's the first of many hurdles. So right now we've created a company, a public benefit corporation. We're getting into the pellet business, which you'd say, well, that's not your core competency. And the reason that we are getting into the pellet business is because we danced, so to speak, with people that are in the pellet industry. And by and large, everybody was shareholder driven or profit driven. And Greg Norton, our president and CEO I mentioned before, and our board really want the focus to be on protecting and enhancing the communities in California. So this isn't a profit-driven motive at all. It's we're solving a problem, and this is just one of what will need to be, it has to be, many solutions because the size of our problem is so big. That we have 33 million acres of forested land in California. That's bigger than the entire state of Pennsylvania. So this is, as I mentioned, just one solution. So everybody needs to get on board and start thinking of others. But we need to do something to solve this problem that we find ourselves with in this beautiful state that we all call home. So with that, I will jump to questions.
Great. Question over here, Haley. Couple.
I actually have two questions. The first was, I know there are lumber companies in Santa Cruz, Big Creek Lumber is one, that are very into sustainable practices, and I wondered if they had been included in coming up with solutions like this, if there had been discussion with those kinds of sustainable lumber companies that have worked with forests for, generations. And then also, in removing the brush, was there consideration given to, other impacts on animals and birds? And of course, them burning up doesn't work either, so.
Yeah. So the answer to the second question I'll hit first is yes, of course. So in order to go into the forests, you need to do, there's state of California people. You can't just go into a forest and take stuff out. So in order to go into the forest, there's a lot of environmental work that still needs to be done. We will have on staff foresters and silviculturalists and anybody and everything. We're going to work with partners in answer to your first question. Partners that have existing master stewardship agreements but are in the woods for other purposes. We're going to coordinate activities. Part of the bigger picture, well, two things. See, I'm going to say two and then I'm going to forget the second when I get there. But the two things are, so remind me, wood innovation economy. The first thing is that we hope, this is just the first product that we're going to make as pellets. It's the feature product. But the reason we're going for pellets is because there's a market for pellets. But the second point I wanted to make, wood innovation, is we're going to work with partners to take the material that they have. So the Santa Cruz mill that you're mentioning, they might be going in and taking timber. I'm not familiar with it. But they're not using tops and limbs. We'll take their tops and limbs. We're going to work with mill sites. We're going to work with other people in the wood innovation industry. We're going to work with the state agencies who, under the governor's enhanced executive order that he kicked off on his first day in office back in January, require Caltrans and county departments of transportation to clear roadways back 30 feet on either side for ingress and egress and to reduce the risk of wildfire. We're going to take that material that they clear off of their hands so they don't have to worry about disposition and can be more impactful in the work that they do. Similarly, with the utilities, we're in conversations with a couple of the investor-owned utilities about taking their vegetation management material off of their hands, so allows them to do more while we handle the disposition. So a lot of opportunities for partnerships. While we haven't been in touch with that particular mill site, we are in due diligence on two existing mill sites that have been closed for a number of years, one in Northern California on the eastern side of the state, and then one in South Central Sierra. And we're working with partners around both of those mill sites as we due diligence those sites to establish memorandums of understanding where we can share resources and whatnot. This is meant to serve as a catalyst for a wood innovation economy. And by that I mean Glenda Humiston, who regrets that she couldn't have been here today. She's the Vice Chancellor for Ag and Natural Resources for the University of California. We're working with them on trying to promote other uses for materials that come out of the forests of California, in addition to timber. So things like cross-laminated timber or nanotechnology or scientific uses for the materials that haven't even been discovered yet. We want to be a catalyst for that type of wood uses.
Great. Well, I think we're going to have to stop it there. We're at time, but thank you, Barbara, so much for interesting talk. You know, she mentioned Glenda Humiston, who I know quite well and who will be in Fresno at the California Economic Summit leading a rural work group talking about this. And the one, I always forget the name of it that Barbara just mentioned, but there's this type of wood product, cross something or other. Cross-laminated timber that is stronger in some cases than steel, and it doesn't burn melt like steel. And they've built 5 or 6 or 10-story place in Portland using that and this, new material. So there's all sorts of really cool stuff happening with this idea of innovative wood products, that it's a total win-win-win. You take the stuff out of the forest so it doesn't burn. I think it's more effective than raking last time I checked. Sorry. And then making that into a product that puts our mills back to work, that provides a useful product for building, et cetera, et cetera. So super exciting, innovative topic, and I'm really glad that Barbara was able to join us to share that inspiring talk with us. Thank you. Okay, I think maybe she walked off with the clicker. Maybe? No? Okay. Oh, you have it. Good. Excellent. That damn clicker. Okay. So our last lightning round of the day. What do you guys think? Are we still in there? Well, I'm super excited about this one. Ben Eichert is the director of Green Power. And this whole idea of creating a regional climate action plan is really interesting. There's a ton of amazingly good work that's happening. But what we're finding is a lot of that work is happening in isolation or not in a coordinated fashion across our region. So Ben's going to share with us some great work that he's done both here in the region and down in San Luis Obispo County. And really exciting, and we're glad to have Ben here today. So please welcome him to the stage.
Thank you, Kate. There are probably a number of reasons you might not recognize where this photo was taken. First off, it's not part of the United States. Second, it's not for sale. It's Greenland. This summer, Greenland lost 55 billion tons of ice over a 5-day period in late July and August. According to Forbes magazine, this was not predicted to happen until 2070. That puts us, 51 years ahead of schedule. Hopefully, this landscape looks a little bit more familiar. This is the Salinas Valley. This is the part where I explain what's happening with climate change. We all know that climate change is being caused by the accumulation of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere, driven primarily by the burning of fossil fuels. This is creating a blanket effect, which is gradually but significantly warming our planet and creating a whole range of other consequences like increased incidence of wildfire, increased storm intensity, changing weather patterns, and altered growing seasons. That last one, altered growing seasons, could have a devastating impact on our inland and agricultural regions. There's another consequence, sea level rise. And this, of course, threatens our coastal areas. 2 years ago, NASA predicted that we could see 30 inches of sea level rise by 2100. That would put much of the iconic beach boardwalk in Santa Cruz underwater. Of course, if melting continues to happen at the pace that it happened this summer, that amount of sea level rise could arrive 50 years early. So no matter what schedule we're on, there's a two-pronged approach to addressing climate change, and that's being as aggressive as possible to adopt policies around adaptation and mitigation. So there's good news in California. We have long been and continue to be a leader in adopting bold policies. Assembly Bill 32, the Global Warming Solutions Act, set a goal of reducing our emissions to 80% below 1990 levels by 2050. More recently, last year, we adopted SB 100, which puts us on a path towards 100% carbon-free energy by 2045. And Governor Jerry Brown issued an executive order mandating that we become carbon neutral across all sectors of the economy by 2045. And we had made great progress on reaching the goals of Assembly Bill 32. In fact, we reached our 2020 goal several years ahead of schedule, while still managing to grow our economy. The bad news is that there was a recent report, the Green Innovation Index, that said that because primarily of increased emissions from wildfires, we may not reach our 2030 goal until 2060. Emissions from transportation have also presented a challenge to the Golden State. Transportation emissions account for more than 40% of our emissions statewide. In this region, it might be closer to 60 or 70%. Most of those come from commuting miles, and we just haven't really figured out how to address those. And in fact, over the last several years, emissions from transportation have risen about 2 to 3% per year. There are some important milestones that we've achieved, however. Several years ago, we launched Monterey Bay Community Power, the community choice energy program for our region, which is already delivering 100% carbon-free energy to all of its customers. This year, they were recognized as, I believe, the Organization of the Year by the Santa Cruz County Chamber of Commerce. And they're preparing to roll out programs that will provide multi-unit housing electrification incentives. And they've partnered to offer up to, I think, $7 million in electric vehicle charging infrastructure grants. There are some successes to share on the agricultural front. This is Taylor Farms in the Salinas Valley. If you've driven up and down 101, you probably recognize the wind turbine. A lot of folks don't know they also have solar across the top of their refrigeration facility. Dierigo Farms has installed more than 1 megawatt of solar power. In hospitality, the Dream Inn in Santa Cruz was just won approval to build a new multi-use development that's going to include I think 10 units of low-income and very low-income housing, and they're also aiming to receive LEED Gold certification on that project. I don't have a slide for it, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention Granite Rock. They have installed 1 megawatt of solar at their quarry in Aromas, and recently upgraded and retrofitted their Watsonville headquarters to be energy efficient and solar powered. And they say that these are just the first steps on their journey to minimizing their carbon footprint and becoming energy autonomous. In addition to these successes, there are also opportunities. Recent studies showed that applying compost to rangeland can not only sequester carbon, but leads to improved plant growth and soil health. Also, there are incentives from the California Department of Food and Agriculture for ranchers who are interested in engaging in these practices. And this is an anaerobic biodigester, part of the Monterey Waste Management District. This converts organic waste into clean energy. It was built in 2013. It was the first in the nation at that time. And new state laws are going to require that we divert 100% of our organic waste from landfills. And so there are really new opportunities to do something with this waste and turn it into clean energy. One more success story that I want to share is important not only on the mitigation front, but also in the area of adaptation. And this one is near and dear to green power. Last year, we began working with State of the Region sponsor and MBEP member, the San Benito Health Foundation. And in August of this year, Congressman Panetta and community leaders from throughout the Tri-County region joined SBHF to cut the ribbon on a solar-powered microgrid project and renovation and retrofit for their building. San Benito Health Foundation upgraded their HVAC, converted to LED lighting, installed solar panels, and a custom lithium-ion battery that could allow the facility to operate for up to 10 days in the event of a power outage or natural disaster or grid shutdown. I think in light of the recent power outages and the announcements by PG&E that we're going to see more of those, they were very forward-thinking in preparing this project over a year ago. And I actually would like us to take just a minute to congratulate them and their forward-thinking CEO, Vivian Fernandez, for their leadership. So how do we ensure that in our region we maintain our sustainability and our beauty here? Well, there was a recent article in the New York Times that said mayors are going to save the planet from climate change. And what the article meant was that the most exciting and impactful policy taking place right now around climate change is coming from the local and regional level. In Los Angeles, Mayor Eric Garcetti announced a Green New Deal for LA that was really just an ambitious update of their climate action plan. But it includes, among other things, a plan to increase the percentage of electric vehicles in the city to 100% by 2050. The city of Santa Monica updated their climate action plan this year, and they have committed $800 million over the next 10 years to both mitigation and adaptation. But the most exciting example, I think, is our neighbor to the south, San Luis Obispo. I've had the pleasure of working down in San Luis Obispo over the last several months on the update to their climate action plan. Several years ago, a group of community activists came together in the effort to bring community choice energy to San Luis Obispo. They were successful last year when the city voted to join Monterey Bay Community Power. Now they've formed a nonprofit called the San Luis Obispo Climate Coalition, and they began working with the city and city staff earlier this year on an update to their climate action plan. And they announced that the city is committed to becoming carbon neutral by 2035. This is the most ambitious municipal goal in the country. So what is a climate action plan? Simply put, it's your city or your county's plan on how they're going to meet state-mandated climate goals. But they can go above and beyond state-mandated climate goals. One of the things that they've done extremely well in San Luis Obispo is engage the community. At the center of everything, whether it's businesses, activists, the Chamber of Commerce, they have put stakeholders and community members at the center, and it has paid off. So bringing it back to our region, many of the same organizations and activists and community leaders that supported the launch of Monterey Bay Community Power have come back together and are encouraging local jurisdictions to update their climate action plans, to be bold and to match San Luis Obispo's goal of being carbon neutral by 2035. And what we have is an opportunity to, like Kate said, instead of do this work in isolation, to coordinate this work across the region and not only achieve the biggest possible impact, but create a model for other parts of the state and other parts of the country. So I want to tell you about a few of the things that are happening. The city of Santa Cruz has already set aside money to update its climate action plan in 2020. They've also been recognized for some of their work around adaptation, specifically the Resilient Coasts Initiative in Santa Cruz. The county of Santa Cruz is preparing to hire a full-time climate manager and has also voted to take the first steps to eliminating all emissions from county-owned buildings by 2035. The city of Salinas is preparing to update its climate action plan next year. The county of Monterey has posted and is preparing to hire a full-time Go Green sustainability manager. And then lastly, we have to recognize the city of Gonzales, which has long been a leader in climate action planning. So at Green Power, we have a saying. We say that when it comes to climate change, the science is clear, the technology is here, what's missing is the political will. And in this room, there is the opportunity to build a lot of political will, more than I've seen in a long time. So I want to just finish up by talking about two things that you can do. If you own or run a business or an organization, contact Monterey Bay Community Power and switch to their MB Prime product. This is 100% renewable energy that comes from wind and solar. It's only 1 cent per kilowatt hour more. And by getting this, your energy will be cleaner and you'll be supporting the development of new renewable energy sources in the state. The second is designate someone in your organization to focus on climate action. And if possible, have them go above and beyond. Work with your employees to look at vehicle miles traveled. If you can, implement flexible work arrangements so that folks can avoid the worst commutes and or create work from home agreements. Lastly, I want to say that my door is always open. You can reach out to me anytime. There's nothing better for me to be doing with my time than having these types of conversations. So I want to thank you for inviting me here today to be part of this conversation. Thanks.
Thank you, Ben. We don't have time for questions. Unfortunately, we are at time. But as Ben said, you can find him through the app. You can find him online, and he's ready and willing to help. He is actually based here in our region, even though he does work down in SLO. And I just wanted to say, not only is Rosa Vivian Fernandez a member and a sponsor, she's a board member. And I just want to give her one. Is she still here? Yes. Where is she? Will you please stand so we give you some love? Just thank you for your leadership. And in just 30 seconds, I just want to say, Rosa Vivian is from Puerto Rico. She went and took a bunch of stuff. She's a physician and went to her home country after Maria hit and helped her peeps and came back realizing that she needed to be off the grid. She is worry-free now when it comes to these power outages. Just think about that. She runs a health facility that a lot of our residents in our region are dependent on. And if that were to go down because of a power outage or anything, she doesn't have to worry about that anymore. So just think it's amazing what she's done. We'd love to see more businesses think about how they need to be part of the solution and implement these types of off-the-grid types of solutions. And people like Ben are doing that great work out there helping organizations do that work.